A horrific incident where her husband was thrown out of a moving bus left our next guest a widow at the age of 28. It's all about love, loss and forgiveness as we live out loud with Sheila Wanyanga next. Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. I'm glad you found this channel. Please click subscribe and hit notifications so you never miss an episode when we upload. My name is Sheila Wanyanga and I'm so happy that you're joining us. We are living out loud at the waterfront. Karen, you've arrived. If you've just set up shop or started a new business, or maybe you're looking to expand your shop space, this is a place you need to be. Get down to the waterfront, Karen. It is East Africa's premier shopping and lifestyle destination. And to join me in having a conversation about life and love and loss is Sheila Wanyanga. Thank you for joining me and thank you for being so very patient with us. Madam, when I think about your life journey and your life story, when you fall in love with someone, it's forever. But what happens when forever is he gets taken away from you at the age of 28? How do you keep moving from there? And before you jump into answering that question, I'd like you to take us back to the beginning, meeting and falling in love with him. How was that?
I remember it was in 2009. I met my husband in Maseno University. I remember that day it was on a Friday and we met at the gate. I was on my way to go see my mom. It was a weekend. No, it was on a Friday. So that day I was going to meet my mother and we exchanged numbers. So when I came back, we just hit it off and started dating. He was 2 years ahead of me in school. So he graduated before me, he got a job, went to live in Nairobi. And after he also finished school in 2013, he got married. Life was good. We used to stay in Nairobi. And then in 2015, we were blessed with a baby boy. And yeah, we lived our life until I got a job in Kisumu. And my husband was very supportive. He told me, you went to school, you cannot just sit in the house just because the job is far away from me. We can still make this work. So I went to Kisumu with my son and Christopher remained in Nairobi. He used to come visit like twice in a month or even during holidays, like public holidays.
In looking at the relationship that you had with him, it was playful, it was fun, you were partners in life, raising a little boy together and looking forward to a lot of wonderful things. However, all of that changed with one phone call to you. So take us back to that very difficult day.
It was on 2nd December 2016. It was on a Friday. That day I left work early. My house help needed to go for off. So I released her, cooked supper, put my son to bed, and we slept. I'm one person who is ever with my phone, but I don't know what happened that day. I put my phone on silent and put it under the pillow. And then I remember it was around midnight. I don't know whether I felt like I was dreaming, but I had a knock, and the knock was getting louder. So I woke up, went to my door, and I found my sister-in-law. When I opened the door, she was like, I need to take your son and go with him to my place. And then I asked her, what's wrong? And then she was like, Christopher has had an accident. Yeah, that's why I'm here this late. So I went to the bedroom, woke up my son, took my phone, and I found a lot of missed calls from different people, my father-in-law, some of my husband's friends. And while I tried calling my husband, his phone was off. I tried calling one of his friends, and he told me that Christopher is being attended by the doctor. Yeah, so, and then when I tried calling him again, his phone was off. After like 30 minutes, one of my shemedis called me, and then he was like, I'm sorry, Sheila, we lost Christopher. I cannot really explain that day. My world just came to an end. My sister-in-law started screaming. My son was there, he touching my dress. I remember I walked out of the house. I started walking in circles, breathing in and out, breathing in and out. It never really hit me that Christopher died, because we had talked around 2 p.m. on that Friday. And he was just okay, but he wasn't as joyful as he used to be. But he told me he was doing okay. So after a couple of hours, again I heard people screaming and crying coming to my house. It was my mother-in-law and some of the relatives. And yeah, it finally hit me that Christopher was no more. That day, when it reached around 4 a.m., I took my son, we went to the airport and waited to board the first flight to Nairobi, because I needed to see with my own eyes. I needed to see him with my own eyes to believe that Christopher...
That what you'd been told
yeah.
was actually real. And there's something about being told the news. There's something about being told somebody whom you love is no longer with you. There's a cold blanket almost that wraps itself around you, and that blanket, you can't, you stare off into space. You can't even blink. Blinking is even hard. You're lost. You're not in this world. You're not in that world. It is a terrible feeling. And of course, now having a little child with you, I cannot begin to imagine what that was like for you, Sheila, and my heart grieves for you. But I'm going back to landing in Nairobi and the questions you must have been asking yourself. What happened? Who did it? Could I have done anything to stop it? What happened next?
I reached Nairobi. My sister-in-law came, picked me up, and we went to Mata Hospital where my husband was lying. I met my parents there and my father-in-law. So when I was asking one of the friends, he told me that my husband, we used to stay in South Sea, around Bellevue. That day my husband boarded a KBS bus going home at night around 8. He was supposed to alight at Shell petrol station, and the Makanga, they never stopped the bus, so they went to the next stage. So when my husband was asking, why are you people not stopping, I hear that man opened the door and threw him on the road, on Mombasa Road. And according to postmortem results, my husband died immediately.
Recently, there have been 2 more incidences of the same, one involving a woman. When you heard about this happening again, how did that make you feel?
I was angry, Sheila. I felt so helpless. I keep asking myself, what is the government or the NTSA or the people who are concerned, what are they doing about it? Because how many deaths are supposed to happen so that somebody acts? It's not really a good feeling. Like, I feel like I'm reliving what my husband went through.
In knowing that somebody threw him out, I'm trying to think in terms of following, going to report the case and going to the police station. Did you do that?
Yeah, so that day I never personally went, but the uncle to my husband, that day they went to Industrial Police Station. The bus was impounded. The driver and the conductor were arrested, but a couple of hours later they were released. So far nothing has been done. Afterwards we went to the Industrial Police Station a couple of times. Nobody is doing anything, nobody is saying anything. They're saying that they don't have witnesses. So nobody ever came forward, so there's nothing they can do. Yeah.
In a situation like this, you're angry.
Yeah.
And you have every right to be angry because someone was taken away from you. A little boy is growing up without knowing his father and enjoying the company of his father. What do you do with that anger, Sheila? Are you, or did you get past that anger, and I'm talking about an emotion you've already dealt with?
Sheila, I had to go for counseling because it was so hard for me. I had to talk to somebody, and it helped a great deal. And then also I have a very strong supportive nuclear family, my sister, my brother and my parents. They always really try to be there for me and help me go through this ordeal.
In looking at your journey to where you are now, accepting and saying goodbye to Chris. What was that like?
It has not been easy. I remember the funeral. It had so much drama. And the day he was laid to rest, I think I'm still numb inside. I try like to block that feeling or that experience from my mind. I sometimes tell myself that Christopher is in Nairobi, he's going to call me, yeah? Now that we used to stay apart, yeah? But trust me, Sheila, I don't think it is ever going to be easy or it's ever going to go away.
In knowing that crimes are committed and there are people who get away with these crimes, and when I say get away, it's just simply that the law hasn't caught up with them. I always believe there's the natural law of justice that ultimately seeks and finds perpetrators anyway. If you could say something to the person who pushed your husband out of the bus, what would you say?
I would first tell him that I forgive him. I know wherever he is, he's not at peace. And my son's tears and my tears will always follow him wherever he is. He'll never have peace in his life. I wish he would just come forward and just say he did this, and he's very sorry for what he did. Yeah.
But in your heart, you've released him already.
Yeah. It's not worth it. I have to move on with my life. When I hold this grudge, it's like he has power over me and my life cannot go on.
In terms of moving on with your life, tell us a bit about some of the difficulties that you've had to face and deal with.
Immediately my husband died. There was so much hostility from my in-laws. I have been beaten. I have been disowned. They have also disowned my son, claiming that my husband is not the father of my son.
Why?
It's because of the wrangle for money and property left behind by my husband.
Was your husband a very wealthy man, or did he have a really good job?
I can say my husband had a really good job. He was a banker by profession, and he also had a side hustle of importing and selling cars. And he also had a driver who constantly helped him in removing cars from the port and taking them to the car yard. This guy, after my husband died, he claimed he had 40% shares in my husband's
suddenly
business.
Everybody was now taking ownership.
Yeah, everybody is now scrambling to come and take what my husband has left. And now, you know, he's dead. He's not there to speak for himself. Yeah, and me being at that time, me still being in mourning, me being naive. Sometimes I just let some of his things just be taken away.
But you know, it's material things. The thing you needed the most was his presence, and if that's not there physically, you have to believe that he's looking out for you and looking out for his son in the wonderful place that he has found himself in. But in moving forward, in knowing that you have to stand and provide for your son, I know you're working, but are you also doing something else?
Yeah, Sheila, I started a business and I named it after my husband. It's called Cheng Electricals and General Hardware. It's in Kisumu, where I sell cables, sockets, fittings, bulbs, yeah, anything for wiring houses.
A little entrepreneur is budding. You've got an entrepreneurial spirit and you want to see it through and make sure that your husband is going to be proud of you and your efforts to provide for yourself and your son. Being widowed at the age of 28 is difficult because you want to grow old with somebody. But here you find yourself still young, still very beautiful. Do you ever think you'll settle down with somebody again someday?
At now, I'm okay being single. I'm still mourning my husband, but we never know. Maybe God has somebody else outside there for me.
You'll keep that door open when the time comes. And your words of advice to another who's going through a difficult circumstance where a loved one is taken away way before their time, what would you like to say to them?
I would like to tell everybody out there that you're not the only person. Life has to go on. The pain never ends, but it becomes bearable. Put God first, and everything is always going to work out well. No situation is permanent. No situation is permanent.
The season's always changing. Fantastic. Sheila, thank you for living out loud with us. We wish you all the very best. When we come to Kisumu, we're going to visit you in the shop. Of course, you are on social media. You'll give us permission to share those details? Tafadhali. If there's a woman who's worth sitting down with, having a cup of tea with, and of course she'll hook you up with those electrical supplies, you know where to find her. So check out my social media sites. Till the next episode, we are signing out from the waterfront. Karen, you've arrived. Remember what I told you. If you're looking to set up shop or expand your business, this is the place to be. Until we catch up again, live out loud in all that you do. Bye.